Good morning, preps, and welcome to Learning at Home. It's writing time, and remember, in writing, right now, we're learning about Dreamtime stories, and we're learning about the parts of a story, the different elements to a story. Yesterday, we had a look at characters. Remember, characters could be people or animals or made-up creatures. Today, we're looking at setting. Another word for setting is place. So, where is the story happening? Is the story happening at home? Is it at the beach? In a castle? So we're going to be looking at the setting for this Dreamtime story in a moment, and then we'll be looking at the beginning, middle and ending parts to a story. Okay, so this Dreamtime story is called The Echidna and the Shade Tree, and you can see a picture of the echidna on the front. It's told by Mona Green, and the pictures were put together by Pamela Lofts. All right, The Echidna and the Shade Tree. Away, out in the middle of the desert, there once grew a huge tree. It was so big that it shaded the whole land from the scorching sun. Already, I can see a lot of setting right now, a lot of place. I can see, tells us it's out in the desert, and in that desert is a really, really big tree, so big that it was shading the whole of the land from this sun over here, otherwise everything would be getting burnt. All the animals lived in the shade of this tree. Each day they would hunt for food, while old Echidna stayed behind. He looked after the children. Each time when the animals returned with the food, they would give the children the tastiest bits. Poor old Echidna got only the scraps. Oh, he looks sad, doesn't he? Look at those eyes. He doesn't have his big spikes there. I wonder where they come. This made Echidna very angry. He grabbed hold of that giant shade tree and shook it. He pulled it and, with a mighty tug, tore it right out of the ground, roots and all. He put the tree on his back and stomped off. Soon, the animals realised that their shade was moving and that they would die of thirst in the hot sun. Uh-oh. They chased after Echidna and begged him to stop. They begged him to put the tree back. You can see the spears they're holding. But he just marched on in anger. You can see the shadow of Echidna and the tree. The animals threw a boomerang. Surely that would stop him. But it didn't. It hit him on the feet and broke his toes. Oh, this is a real problem, isn't it? I wonder what will happen now. But still he shuffled on. He's got right at the top of this hill. At last the animals hurled their spears. Oh no, this looks pretty terrible for Echidna. Echidna howled in pain. Soon he was completely covered with spears. The giant tree crashed to the ground. It rolled over and over across the plain, and its huge branches broke off and stuck into the ground. What do you think it was making? Looks like lots of little trees. Poor Echidna lay dying. Soon the animals began to feel sorry for him. Cockatoo flew up and asked, "Where would you like to be buried?" In an ant bed? In a clump of spinifex grass? In between some rocks? Echidna chose the rocks. When he died, the animals buried him there and covered him up. Only the spears were sticking out. To this day, echidnas have spears on their backs. They still shuffle about on little bent and broken feet as they hunt for ants among the rocks. The animals too still live in the desert. They hunt in the shade of the small trees that grew from the branches of that one giant tree. And they will never die of thirst because water filled up the hole left by the shade tree and made a huge lake called the Nongra. So we've talked about Dreamtime stories have often been created to tell a story to explain parts of the earth, to explain why things came to be. So I think in this story, they're explaining lots of things, like how an echidna has such prickly spines on its back. It was a story to explain that. And how we should never really take away big parts of nature because it can wreck what's there and, I guess, the other things that need it. Because when that shade tree left, all the animals was really suffering. It's a bit of a sad story, isn't it? Were you feeling sorry for Echidna? He didn't make a good choice taking that shade tree, but I was feeling pretty terrible for him. And then he died in the ending. It was a really sad story. So today, when we're thinking about this book, we're going to be thinking about setting or place. Where did that story take place? Have a think back. What do you remember? I remember that, I'm just going to have to, there we go. No. Technical glitch. There we go. Hold that there. The setting is really important in this story because it was set in the desert and there needs to be a really, really big tree in the desert as well as the hot, hot sun. So those are probably the key things that I'm going to include in my picture. I'm going to start by drawing my really big tree. Went out a bit like that, didn't it? This big black tree. Lots of branches. Just getting my outline, what I'll do. And then I'm probably going to colour that in. Now remember shading, so you hold that pencil or zoom on the side. And my black's running out, but hopefully I've got just enough to get through. It's really important to colour in your backgrounds because this gives us a real sense of where the story took place. Going to have to change to another black. Luckily I've got one. There we go. So my big black shade tree. It's really a central part to the whole story. Without the shade tree, there wouldn't have been the problem in it. Do my branches. Remember, these turned into tiny little trees at the end of the story. I'll give them some green on the end. Now I want to make the ground look pretty hot, and so for that I'm going to try and use a red dirt, red desert ground. Mrs. Mac is struggling today. It's okay. Persist and keep on trying. Now there's a really important feature from this shade tree. Remember what it is? Up in the sky. That's sun. So I'm going to draw a nice big one around those branches. Colour it in nice and dark. Then I might include some rocks over here. That was where Echidna was buried at the end. And he also walked the tree up a hill. Do you remember that? I think it was an anthill. He took it to the top of the anthill. And an anthill would have lots of little holes in it for the ants to come in and out. I'll draw lots of little holes around there. And I'm not drawing any water yet because the water came at the end of the story. So I'm just going to have that, and then I probably need to do some blue in my sky. Make sure you go slow when you get to the edges of your picture so you don't shade into it. Then, after I've finished all my shading, it'll be time to do some labelling. So you can label the parts of your setting. You can label the sun, the tree, you can label the rocks, the dirt, the sky, and even the anthill. So once you've finished with that, you can grab out a grey lid and start to label. Sun is a great word that we can sound out. S, ah, n. We've got hill, it, ooh, there's a digraph there at the end. Rock, and I've got tree, and tree is really tricky because it sounds a bit like ch, which you've been learning about, but it's actually T-R, tree, and two E's there. And then I've got sk, I, and down here, might call that the dirt. Dirt. Now remember, if you don't know all the sounds in the words, that's okay. We're in prep and we're learning. But have a go and see what sounds you can write down. Alrighty, good luck. See you tomorrow.